Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, and a warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast, and we are in the $1 Million series. And today's guest is a real live wire. We had so much fun on this podcast, and I can't wait to share it with you. I am absolutely buzzing after this because it's been an absolute joy for me to interview the lovely, the amazing Jana Kingsford. Please enjoy this podcast episode and do leave us a little review if you have been enjoying our podcast. I will catch you in the episode. Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast. This is the $1 Million series, and I'm joined by the beautiful, the amazing, the digital nomad, Jana Kingsford. So come and introduce yourself, Jana.
I'm Jana Kingsford, Chief Big Dreams Genie of the Internet. If we've never met, it's literally made it my business to help you guys achieve your big dreams. I do a lot of live streaming, so I say hi a lot.
Good. I love it. So we were just talking before this call that we've known each other for a little while on the internet. We kind of like cross paths in lots of different groups and things like that. And we I've been following sort of Jana's story as it's been building and everything like that. And it's starting, you're literally on track now for your 7 figures. It's like insane. It's getting so exciting. And this is the cool thing when you follow somebody for a long time, that you get to like basically come on a journey with them, which is really cool. So I completely recommend finding some people that you resonate with and then following them and seeing how their journey unfolds, because it's so inspiring. And so I'm really inspired by Jana because not only is she online entrepreneur helping other people build their dreams and things, but she's also a mum and a digital nomad. So that's like a lot, homeschooling, all the things. So even before COVID, right? So like even before it was cool. So tell us a little bit about like, when did you start becoming a digital nomad? Because I think you've always maybe been one since I was following you, or maybe you were just starting to go on that road. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think we would have met around the 2014, like all being in each other's world that in 2014. So 2014, 15, 16, I was regular onliner. 2014 was my first 6-figure year. But then 2017 is when we started traveling. So that's like coming on 5 and being a nomad, that we left our house and we left for our first lap around Australia in 2017. We took our kids out of school in 2017. And we did our first lap of Australia. So I think that's like 5 years ago. Was it 5? Yeah. About 4 or 5.
Yeah. So a huge lap around Australia. That's massive. That's like huge, because
we did that. In 2017, we did a big lap around Australia in a $2,000 caravan, which was it was the best we could afford. Like even with the 6-figure business, and it's not 6 figures in the bank. And so we traveled around Australia for the first lap in 2017. We were still paying the mortgage and car payments and traveling around Australia. That's when I first started to really travel. And then when we came home, everybody was done with travel except me. I was like, I love it. It's amazing. But all the kids were just like, no. My husband's like, no. So we got a house. And in 2018, we did that for 6 months, and all the kids are like, let's go again. And my husband's like, let's go again. And so we ended up traveling around Australia and doing a second lap of Australia. The second time, I bought the caravan in cash. So it was a $65,000 caravan in cash. So we'd had a bit of an upgrade from organic marketing over those 2 years. But and then we did another lap, and it was so much fun. Like this time it was unaltered by money. So we just had so much more fun. It was, the first one was the pilgrimage the getting lost to be found, kind of very much a cathartic losing ourselves to find ourselves, kind of coming together as a family vibe. The second one was just fun. It was just so much fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
So that was that.
I love it. And I love also as well, because obviously it's not the norm when you take your kids out of school and you do all the things and stuff like that. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, is about living life on your terms, like living life on your own terms and stuff. And I feel like that's a kind of big brand value for you as well, of creating life on your own terms. So tell us a little bit about your work and what you do, because obviously one of the things that I really admired about you is that you really live your talk.
Oh, I like that so much. Well, you know what, this sort of plays into 2020, because before 2020, everything we did was very alternative, and we were just like, we homeschool our kids. So we came into 2020 about to do our third lap in a caravan, and we homeschool our kids, and they're teenagers. Like our oldest teenager is 18 this year. Our second one, she's 15 this year, and our third one, he's 9 this year. So they're all like older, you know. So we were homeschooling them through high school, and traveling around Australia. And you would see my son, he doesn't wear shoes. So we're all a little feral. And just doing it because he's like, I don't want to wear shoes. And I'm like, okay, well, who says you have to wear shoes? And yeah, so we've always been that alternate family, like, and it's just the house was a representative, because we had a house, a mortgage, everything, and then we were just drowning in it, even with the six-figure business, just kind of like suffocating in the relentless, monotonous over and over again, like the same thing. And I think travel for us was living more in alignment with ourselves, like free spirited, bright-minded, light-hearted. Like it was, we weren't meant to be in a house. Like we were full time, and with a house and a mortgage and a white picket fence. Like it wasn't meant to be that. Before we had kids, or as we had our kids early on, we'd moved, like before we bought our house, we'd moved like 20 times, and in about, I don't know how many years, but we'd moved 20 times. Like we were always very nomadic. And then we had kids, and we're like, okay, you've got to be stable, you've got to have a house that's stable, and then you've got to have jobs that are stable, and then you've got to take them to school, and then you got to take them home, and you got to put them in bed by 7 p.m. And it was all this rules of how you're supposed to do life. And I think for us, it was what helped my business at the same time as helped me, is when I started to just be like, no, that's not how I want to be living my life, and it doesn't feel like it's congruent with me. It just doesn't fit what I want to do. And the best quote, like my favorite quote that I've heard like recently that would have been great back then, was, I'm a free spirit who never had the balls to be free. And it's by Cheryl Strayed. And I just love that. It was that it takes guts to be a free spirit. It is not wiffly waffly. It's the most like badass thing that you can do, is be a free spirit. If you are one, is allow yourself to be like a free spirit, because it's not easy being a nomad, that's for sure. And
We
it's
talk a lot
constant uncertainty.
yeah, in the $1 Million community, we talk a lot about the people police. So the people police is what I call the largest police force on the world. And these are people, and basically what they do is they try and police you into what is safe for them, not you, but they try and put that on you. And, you know, and that's what being a free spirit is going against, like the people police. But the people police is the largest police force in the world. It's ordinary men and women trying to police you into like what is normal, you know. And the minute you step outside that, you're deemed either crazy, which is one of the other concepts that we talk about in the $1 Million Experiment, is the fact that like you have to get a little bit crazy if you want to go against the norm. And hey, guess what? Being a millionaire is against the norm. So you want to kind of be all in, tickets purchased for the crazy train. You do not want to be in the little white picket fence if you're wanting extraordinary.
Oh my God. Yes. Everything. Yeah. So that was like my first 100K month. I remember when I look back at my journaling on that month, I said, you're going to have to just lose your mind. I'm like, wait, what? You're not supposed to lose your mind. Like, you got to lose your mind. That was in my journaling when I was doing my dollar diaries. It was lose your mind. I had to just lose my mind. I had to get out of my mind and just get into this magical vibe and just keep on facing the sun, no matter what was sort of like coming into in the resistance and the fears that were showing up, and you can't do that. That is crazy. That is ridiculous. And these are the three like really powerful vibes that I've noticed of the really like the 6-figure months, because they're not mathematical, they're just magical, because all the people come, because it's people, right? And what I've noticed is there's like 3 things: you got to be ridiculous, crazy, and lose your mind to do it. In like that, like you have to be crazy. You got to get ridiculous. Let's get ridiculous. I mean, with your $1 million thing, that's ridiculous. You got to be ridiculous, and you got to lose your mind, because your mind's just gonna screw you.
It is. I think the mind is part of the people police, really, isn't it? Because what the people police, I believe, is like deep conditioning, deep conditioning of like, you got to do it the proper way, go to school, get a good job, like then get married, then have children. Like I did it all out of order. I was already,
I know I did it back to front as well.
By the time I got to the school part.
Yeah, I dropped out of school. I had a baby when I was a teenager. I ran away from home with my husband, who is now my husband, but that was like 22 years ago. I ran away from home. I was like, nothing that I did was by the book, and I did everything back to front. I graduated university as a dropout with 2 kids, pregnant with the 3rd. Like I just did everything back to front because I just wanted to.
I know, I love it.
I love it. I still want to do it.
Building this journey, you've had a real journey, because you've gone from funnels, the proper way to market, into organic marketing, which is what I do as well. I love organic marketing. I love connecting with real people. It's so amazing. So talk us a little bit about thought process behind like doing it the internet way, the way that the gurus say, like build the funnels, build all the things, which you had, and you were doing well doing that. And I wanted you to tell your own story on this, actually, because I'm so excited for people to hear.
I love it. I like hearing it from you. Go for it. I love it.
So you make this big switch. So tell us what happened when you make this big switch, because like it was going amazing before.
Yeah. Okay. So I set this word congruent. Never set that as your word for the year. Just don't do it. It's just not. But I mean, it was good for me in the end. It was just congruent was my word in 2016, and I just all of a sudden it was like this magical universal power over me in a sense that I just couldn't do anything that was out of congruence. And it was, well, I can't do these funnels anymore. This was scary because that's my whole business that I support my family of 5. Like at that point, I'd already had my husband retired for like 2 years or 2 or 3 years. And I'm like, I can't just delete my funnels because this is incongruence. And the universe is like, yeah, you will. You've got to pioneer this path. This is what you've got to do. I'm like, well, nobody else is doing it. Why do I have to do it? But anyway, congruent was the word. And I was like, okay, we've got to be congruent. So I had at that point, I think I had a woman that was setting up my funnels. It was like $20,000 at that point on support, getting that all wazooed. And I had an email list, a huge big email list. I had a website that was a mummy blog that had all this traffic because I was like all up in it. Was Pinterest. I had like 50,000 people coming to my website through Pinterest and not so much Facebook, but mainly Pinterest and Google, because it was SEO just so rich because I had done all the SEO stuff. And I just pressed delete on everything. I just went delete. I said to my assistant at the time, could you please delete all of my funnels? She's like, what say what now? I'm like, all of them. And I just had like this blow it up, break out, and let's break free, because I just felt like people would buy my things all of a sudden. At the start it was fine because it was small, but then it started to grow and the funnels were working and all these people were coming in, because back then it wasn't like white noise, it was people bought through funnels. But then these people would come in and I was like, oh, they'd say like stuff in the course like they don't even know who I am. They have no idea who I am. They're like, who's this Jana on the thing? Saying things like farts in the wind. And like, I could see that they weren't a match for me. And they would come in, I was just like, oh my gosh. And these people in my course learning my things, some of them just ripping it off and doing it. But like most of the time, I'm just like, I don't even know them. I wasn't used to that. And I wanted to have a connection with everybody that was there. I wanted to know,
Mm.
do you have kids? How many kids do you have? Are you married? Are you not married? Like, what's your life like? Where do you live? What do you do? What do you do for fun? I wanted to know them, but I didn't. And some of them I didn't even really want to know because they weren't a match for me. They were not my people. Like they weren't vibing with me. They just wanted my works for Jana. I don't really like Jana. I don't really care for her very much. She's so hyperactive. She speaks really fast. She's super like, woo, all over the place. And I can't really take it. She's too bubbly, just calm it down a little bit. And they couldn't really take me for who I was. And I could really start to feel that when people came through funnels and through ads. And they'd get me and they're like, I don't want you for you. I don't want you for your, I just want you for your strategies. It's like saying to a woman, I don't want you for you. I just want you for your body. Like, it's the same thing. And they were just like, I don't want you, none of this personality thing, just the strategy. That's all I want. And that's when I could really feel myself like, I got to do something. And so I was like, I'm just going to
And
pioneer the
it's so
path because
out
nobody
of
else is doing
alignment
it.
and integrity from that person in the first place, but it really thrusts you out of alignment
Yeah.
if you're willing to sell to people like that. I feel you 100%, because it's a
Yeah.
hard no for me as well. Like there's people are very shocked because there's many times where I've, especially my Divine Planning Abundant Profits course, there's many times where I've refused to sell that to someone because they're just literally not a match for it. And you're either a match or you're not. And it's not that, it's not like being rejected and being like that. No, I'm like literally saving them money because they're not, if they're not a match for the whole thing, then it's a no. But there is
Mm,
going to be something else better out there for them in that moment. But for the people that it is like hell yes, oh my god, I'd love to have that person in, I know that that's where I can affect massive change. And I think there is, I love that you were willing to delete all your funnels for, in the name of honesty, because that's really what it was. It's about being really honest with what you honest, and honesty always starts at home. It always starts with yourself, like being honest with, how do I feel, right? Because it feels weird taking money off people that are like so far, like you wouldn't even be friends in real life.
mm-hmm.
My litmus test
100%.
for my ideal client is, would we get booted out of a restaurant? So
Yes.
what I say is, like, like if you're in a restaurant and you're having such great chat and you lose track of time and then the waiter goes, it's now like we're closed now.
Yeah.
So you get booted out at the end of the night, because they're like, we want to go home. That's when you've got your ideal clients. Do you know what I mean? And I always think about my clients because I'm a real foodie and things like that. And I always think about my clients and I always think, would we get booted out of a restaurant? And then I think, yeah, we totally would. We'd be talking up such a storm that we'd lose track of time. And then the wait staff would get pissed at us and be like, get out. We want to go home to our
that
families.
that is the best thing. That has literally happened to me with one of my clients. Like literally, actually happened in the middle of the outback Australia. Paula the Ivy, one of my clients, she's been working with me now 4 years, and she's the selfie queen. She teaches women how to do their selfies for their brands. And she had a big dream of traveling around Australia. I was traveling around Australia, and she's like, I want to do that as well. So she's like, hey, can you help me achieve this big dream? So we did that. And on our second lap, she was doing her first lap. So she was doing her big dream that she came to me with, which
Oh
was
my
so
God, I
fun.
love it.
And we crossed paths at the top of Australia in the middle of the outback at this old Australian country pub. And we and our husbands, like, this is my thing. Like, if we couldn't like get our families together and our families would vibe, then yeah, same thing. So anyway, our hubbies are just like having a bromance, and then we are just hanging out all night, and we literally did get kicked out of the pub because we camped in there. And luckily, like, we didn't have to drive home out. We actually camped at the pub with our campers and caravans and stuff like that because we were traveling Australia. But yeah, that actually did happen.
Well, there you go, right? And that's
There
how
you go.
you know. That's how you know, like And you're right. Like somebody who doesn't like you for you and then only wants your strategies, you'd be going to the toilet texting your friend, can you please phone me so I can get out here?
Yeah. It's like, get me out of this business that's what I felt. I'm like, I'm creating a monster. And I know at that time I was very neck and neck, like with a lot of entrepreneurs that I could see them going down that path of creating a monster of a business, like a machine and a monster that you just don't want to be a part of. There's just like, it's that fork in the road, and I felt that coming, like this is going to be a monster that I don't want any part of, and I'm just going to have to be this robot that runs it at the top. There's a point where it's going to be too far gone, and I knew that was like, I got to change the way that I'm doing, because I want to love my business like you. I want to love the people that are in it. I want to love showing up for it. This is about doing what I love for a living. This is not about building a machine. That was never what I dreamt about when I was a kid. I didn't go, oh, I can't wait till I'm like old and running this beautiful business, running a business and setting up funnels and ads. It's not what I dreamt of when I was a kid. I dreamt of making $1 million and being a writer and loving what I was doing. So it's, if you don't go to bed that's my little thing, the filter. If you don't go to bed dreaming of funnels or ads, like there's nothing wrong with them. Like Russell Brunson, is it? That guy goes to bed dreaming of funnels. Like that's his dream.
Your click funnels man. Yes, of course. Like it's his thing, right? Like that is his jam.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing. I love that you brought this up, because I'm not a fan of funnels, right? But it does not mean that a funnel is wrong. It is about, I think it's about discernment. And a lot of people get judgment and discernment all tangled up. Judgment is the void aligned version of discernment. Judgment says that way is wrong, meaning anyone that goes down that way is whack. And discernment is that way is not for me, leaving the way intact for other people to go down it if it's for them. Like fill your boots. If funnels is your thing, fill your boots, go down the thing, but like make sure you're dreaming of them at nighttime, right? Whereas like for me, it's not my thing, and so that way is not for me. And what I love is organic reach, because I love being in amongst the people, and I love connecting with people, and I love the people that bring me more people, because they do, right? They bring you their friends and they're like, hey, coach my friend, or coach my sister, or and it's beautiful, and you just get to know people from a thing. But not everybody is like us, people-y, and really love, like not everyone is like that, which is good, because it would be really boring if we were all the same. So we then make this big switch, right? You make this switch from funnel queen, let's call you that, to
I was at a course called the funnel formula, the freebie funnel formula.
Right. So we then go to the organic marketing empress, shall we call you, on this. So making the switch, the transition, was it hard? Was it difficult?
I had no followers on Facebook. I had I had 400 people on my Instagram that I've been growing for years. And I used to rally against Facebook. I was like, stop posting on Facebook, go and make a funnel. What are you doing? Get off Facebook. What are you even doing? I saw it as like, why would you waste time on that? Like, what are you doing? So I went to Facebook to 20, I think, I don't know, I had maybe 400 on my page, but I had no interaction on my personal profile. And my Instagram was maybe 400, but no interaction. I didn't know how to post an engaging thing, and I just didn't. I deleted it before I'd figured out social media. And then I was like, deer in the headlights. What do I do now? So I figured it out, obviously. But that was the switch. I went straight from the funnels, deleting it all. What I did do, the actual pivotal switch that I did was I went offline for a whole month. Obviously, it wasn't really a big deal because I wasn't on social media, but I deleted everything, right? So I delete everything. I'm running a family of 5, and I shut down everything, and I didn't post, and I didn't do anything and I had no funnel and no website. And I sat at the back of my business. I recorded myself writing a book. So I was like, I got to get this book that's the mummy blog book that kind of takes everything that I taught on that website, all the mummy blog stuff, and I'm saying goodbye to that chapter. I'm not the mummy blogger anymore, because that's really what I was. People really came to me as that. And I'm going to capture all that, because it was important to me. That was important for that phase and stage, but I was not interested in talking about it anymore. So outgrown it. And then I sat for that whole 30 days and I wrote a 50,000 word book. behind the scenes, and I vlogged it as well, and I was creating these vlogs. So that was my only content that I would do. It was called like Unjuggled, and I'd post these to YouTube, and that was the only contact people got from me from a whole month. But I came out the other end, launched that book on the 1st of October, #1 bestseller, and that was like goodbye. And then now what? And then that sort of, I didn't know it at the time. All it was for me is I was trying to write that book for 15 months, and I was in deep resistance. I was like, I got to do this and then I can move forward. I don't know what I'm going to do, but all I know is I've got to do this. Like that, answering that calling when nothing around you, like I just deleted my business. It's probably not smart to be not focusing on making money. And I wasn't focusing on selling or making money. Like, what was I going to do? Show up to my 20 people on Facebook? But I created that book, and that really
I
created
think
a
I
lot
might
of
have been one of
buzz.
them.
Yeah, yeah, really, yeah, really. Exactly.
As
I mean,
number
I think that
18.
stuff was, yeah, there you go. Oh my God, I love that so much. But yeah, I think that was the transition, and that a week after I published that book, Mark, I said to Mark one day, I had this like divine download driving. My daughter was so sad from going to school, and we just spent 2 weeks uh, on the school holidays taking her to the beach every day. We'd gone to the beach every day, and she just wasn't really coping at school, just didn't really fit in, a little bit bullied, you know, that square peg, round hole sort of thing, and not
Oh, I
academic
know
at
it
all, but
well.
sweet, beautiful, sweet, just like me at school. Great behavior, terrible, like D's for achievement. But she's a lovely girl. So she was exactly the same. So anyway, she was crying after school every day, and I was like, what am I going to do? And then it just like struck me. I'm going to homeschool the kids. I'm taking the kids out of school, and we're going to travel around Australia in a caravan. It's a Tuesday. It's a random Tuesday. I'm just driving back from the coffee, and was like, I'm going to tell Mark. I'm going to ask Mark. And I drove home to my husband. I was like, here's the plan. Let me know what you think. We sell the house. We take the kids out of school. We buy a caravan, and we travel around Australia. And he turns to me. I still remember. He turns to me and goes, I'm keen. And we just kept driving our little ride in our box. And we was like, we asked the kids at the end of the day, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. 3 months later, we were on the road. Like, it was
Oh
a
my God, I
whirlwind
love
over 3
that.
months.
I
But
love that.
yeah, that's kind of the transition. All of those things happened at once. And obviously that sort of set the social media off, because it was interesting. Stuff was happening. We were posting photos of our empty house, and we were sleeping on the floor going, what do we do now? Yeah.
Oh my God. So I love the digital nomad lifestyle. And I mean, one of the times for us was a couple of years ago, we went to America for 3 weeks, you know, and normally 3 weeks holiday in any other job is like super, super frowned upon, you know, like to take that amount of time off from your employer or anything. And we just had our laptops with us. And I mean, during the time that we were away, you know, I think we made about $15,000 during that time. Like we were away, like we we're having a ball in LA and California, and you know, and we're going to the beach, and we're you know, oh my God, that was an entirely other story. We had a parenting fail at Venice Beach because the whole place stinks of hash. And so we're walking along, and my kid's like, what is that smell? I'm like, oh, it's nothing. But she gets so insistent. And there's people behind us, and they start giggling, like full on laughing, like they're losing their shit behind us, laughing because our kid's like, what is that smell? It's gross. Like, and then we're like, it's marijuana. And I'm like,
And then she's probably like, what's that?
complete parenting fail. But that was Venice Beach. But we, you know, we were, you know, just to be able to go and travel around and drive around and like see all the things and do all, and we did some of the touristy stuff, like you know, the Universal Studios and things like that. But it was, you know, it was really my first sort of real realization of what I had built for myself and my family and what freedom it afforded us. So I can't imagine what it's like to do an entire tour of Australia, knowing it must feel so jammy, knowing all you need is a Wi-Fi connection, and there you are, right? And you can be wherever. And now because of mobile phones and stuff, like you could literally stream wherever, which you did, usually from amazing, glorious beaches, which I was very grateful for it, living in Scotland in the cold.
You're so welcome. You're welcome. I used to go, hey, what do you score my background today? Because I used to make it like a thing, like where could I get like the best background to like wherever I am? Like where can we get like the palm tree in it, the beach in it, or whatever it is. And I used to love going like the environment really gets me excited. So I think that's a great thing for traveling with me, is because I get to just like this morning even I was doing a live stream sitting knee deep in sand, and it's just like I love it. It makes me it's digital nomad, like being traveling with your work. Oh my gosh, it's I find like we're in this beautiful house right now. We only rented it for 3 months because we were just like we're so scared of permanency now. It's like, oh, mediocrity, like, oh, we'll get into routine. Oh, and we're like allergic to it. So we got this house for 3 months and it's freaking amazing. I don't know. It's got like 15-meter high wall, like ceilings in some bits. It's crazy. And we're still just like, yeah, we're going to travel again. Like we 3 months is our limit. Like that's it. Because for me, it really moves my energy around. Like I'm writing my book and editing a documentary while we're here, so I'm doing a lot of work. But more so, like I love digging myself into projects that I can't do while we're traveling, because you every 3 days you're moving. It's a whole thing, and I'm mostly just working from my phone. I'm not sitting on my computer, and we're going out and seeing horizontal falls and whale sharks and like that's what we're doing this year. But we're doing all this stuff, and I'm working a couple of pockets during the week, but there's no time for those get my teeth into those bigger
Yeah, the
projects. So
projects
when we
take a bit
stop for a
longer.
second, yeah, you just like I'm writing a book and I'm doing a documentary. So I call them workations when we're staying in a house now. It's called a workcation. And yeah, so that's how we balance out the nomad situation with traveling all the time. Because for me, it inspires my content because I'm moving around. Like on the first day of January this year, I had 20 people sign up in the first week of this year. I had 20 people sign up to one of my membership sites things, and it's like 333 a month. And I had like 20 people sign up in the first extra people sign up in the first week of January. And I was gallivanting across the countryside here with my friends coming to visit, and that just it frees up my energy because I'm not even thinking about it. I get in there, do my work in the morning, and I'm connected in live streams and doing the social media and posting the photos and having fun living my life. And then it's sort of like a beautiful weave. And then when we're in a house, I'm kind of like more focusing on my projects, really tunnel visioning, and it's good for me. But the nomadic, free spirited, seeing new places, moving around really helps me with my creation and my creativity. So it's
Love
almost like essential. It's almost like my job now to move around.
I love it. I love it. So, but it's not always been easy and plain sailing, and family has not always been supportive. I know that we talked a little bit about, and I asked you if it was okay to share this story, but I remember reading one of Jana's posts once and just being like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what the actual hell? Your husband chucked your laptop into the swimming pool because he was mad at you for the amount of time that you spent on it back then. Now, this is quite a few years ago. And I remember reading the story and being like, oh my God. But I also remember like really being so impressed with your commitment to the vision, because I, at that time in my life, in my own marriage, I know that I was the vision keeper. I held this vision longer than anyone else. Like I held it, like even my husband couldn't see it in the beginning. My kids couldn't see it in the beginning. And so I was an inconvenience and an annoyance because I wanted to learn. Like I spent a lot of time learning, and I spent a lot of time coaching and being coached and things like that to learn my craft basically. And I would do things like not watch television. Instead, I would, be doing like sitting watching webinars on my laptop instead, right? And at the time it like really resonated this because I was going through something similar. And I felt very much that my family were my people police at one stage. And that's because I think when you have a huge, giant, massive vision, and inside you, you have a knowing that you can do it, but there's no proof, there is nothing to back you up, to show it to other people that you can do it. Other people will look at that and think, that sounds like pipe dreams, because they can't see what you can see, right? And it's such a hard thing. And I know that when you went through that and I read that and I was like, oh my God, this lady's like next level badass at like sticking with her vision. She's like, no problem. I have a phone. Let me post this. And I was like, I'm sure it never went down like that, but I was just like, oh my God, because there's a level of frustration that I think a lot of women, especially, probably men as well, maybe face, is that when you hold that vision, you're not just holding that vision for you, you're holding it for your family. You want a better life for your whole family. And then when that family get pissed at you for working on the vision, there is this energy of frustration where you feel frustrated because you feel like you kind of want to shake them a little bit and maybe do them some, small bodily harm, but through that frustration, right? And obviously this was like a big kind of pinnacle moment in your life. Will you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know it's like quite a personal story and stuff, but I just admire the fact that you are still doing it and you're still creating, and now it's a different story because your husband's completely on board. So tell us a little bit about what happened.
Oh, I love this so much. So we were just literally just before we were listening to some podcasts, we were going, we can do that. We can do like a podcast together because he's got a real good radio voice. And he's like, yeah, that seems easy. Let's do that. And he's like, so we just talk about anything. I'm like, yeah. And then we were just before that, I was like, oh my God, that video that we did of the van tour, the second van tour of our caravan, it's got 27,000 views on YouTube on it. It's my second most viewed video, and I've been on YouTube for 8 years. And he's like, oh, that's so cool. And we just started watching it again, and we were watching him do the tour of the outside. It was so funny because it took him like 5 minutes, kind of like 5 minutes to kind of like warm up and do the like talk instead of laugh. But it was really fun. So it's been an evolution for sure. And I think for me, the reason that I shared the story of when he threw my computer in the pool, which we laugh about now when we remember it, but it happened in 2015. And that was a year after my business went from 1K months to 11K months in 5 months in 2014. So it was a fast rise. Like I had no time to stabilize with it. And it just kept going up and 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 up. And I was just not ready for that sort of situation. Like I had a 17K month in, I had like 14K days in January 2015. It was like, I've been doing big days for a red hot minute, So in March, I'd done 17K, and it was almost like a trip switch. It just was like, it was just a whole thing. Everything was really changing my business, as in like 17K back then in 2000 just
It's
turned
amazing,
2015
incredible.
was crazy. And I'd retired Mark, but he was still finding his feet. Like, how do you be a husband to a woman who is completely slaying and everyone is just loving her online, and you're just like, what is there left for me? And I was very much getting super duper resentful of him and everybody, but mostly just him. And the way that it kind of came off, that I was just like, I was really emasculating him. That was the word. It's emasculation that I learned at the end, what I was doing. And it was turning him into something he wasn't. Like, because we've been together 22 years now. And this is the only time I'd seen him like that. And I was like, what has happened to you? What has happened to us? Like, we were the couple. We've always been the power couple. Like, everybody looked up to us. But then we were just like, what is happening here? And I think he'd lost his identity because he doesn't have a job. Like, he didn't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And then I'm the breadwinner, no longer, not like I'd never been really dependent on him, but he, was the provider. But I always made my pocket money. But it was this weird dynamic that we had not figured out. And it just got to its boiling pot by that stage. And yeah, one day it's just like after, it was a build up of about a year of this. just emasculation, it just not us not on the same page, it just not working. Um, take her job away from a guy and like he'll be like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to be retired, and don't do it until you're ready.
Give
Like
it a couple of
literally, because
weeks and then it's like, what do I
yeah,
do now?
yeah, what do I do now? It's like a retired guy that wants to retire his whole life and then retires and he's got no purpose. It's that was that. So he's having a son. I'm emasculating him because I'm like, I've got this and I've got to do this and this and this and this and like a
And
to-do
then
list.
it's very easy to get into the story, I think, for women of I have to do it all myself and it's all on me, which then builds that energy of resentment, which is, and my spirit team, Skylar, have got an amazing insight on resentment, which is resentment is the agent that the universe sends when you have crossed your own boundaries.
Oh yeah.
It's juicy, right? And you realize, like, because you're doing things that you don't really want to be doing yourself, because actually you'd really like some help up in here, but you've never asked. So you're crossing your own boundaries and things. So I when I had my earlier businesses, my 4 first businesses that I had, the 4, I lived in that energy of resentment all the time because I was so attached to these stories, like it's all on me, I have to do it all myself, things like that, right? And it is a real thing to negotiate. So tell us a little bit about how you healed that part of your relationship and stuff, because I think this is really important, because I don't want anyone to think that, yeah, like we're throwing out some big numbers here with Jana, you know, like Jana does amazing online. She is well on track for her $1 million year. And I think it's really important that that sounds really glamorous, which is it, and it is, but it's also like there's real people, real relationships and things like that involved. And I think it's important. And I've had to navigate all this myself with me and my husband. My husband's our CFO, so he works within the business now, but it is not always easy to juggle these things. So tell us a little bit about your healing journey of, like, obviously we've had this like incident of like, I don't even know, like I kind of, it blows my mind because I'm like, my mind won't even allow me to go there. Like if that was my husband that had done that to my laptop.
Oh, I was just like, oh, it's over. So like it was we were separated for a week. So, but yeah, it was a big situation. Like I had to do a lot of inner work. Like how did I, like, what got this to this point? And why was I crying about the computer but not him? Like I was screaming about the computer coming in the pool. That's my work. And then he left and I'm like, I don't care. I'm so sad about this computer. And I realized like that in that moment, like, oh, I don't think this, maybe he has a point, but I'm not going to say that. But it was so interesting. So the thing that happened that day, one of those divine moments, I had about 6 months ago downloaded the Queen's Code on my phone, on my Kindle, luckily, because I didn't have my computer anymore. And I randomly opened it and I read the whole thing in a day. And I was like, oh my God. Well, I could have read this a little earlier. So I read the Queen's Code. I realized what had happened. But then it wasn't all like hunky-dory, come back and everything like that. What happened was almost like divine intervention just kept on coming through. I read about the emasculation that day when I was reading this book, and I was like, oh, wow, I think I'm doing this. And because I've always been so amazing with men. Like, I mean, my dad brought me up, and it was just me, my dad, and my brother that I grew up with. So I was always very much like the man is the hero, and I just love men. I don't have anything, like I don't have any inbuilt stuff about like not having a dad there or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
like no
got a
dad
really good
issues,
relationship.
basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, this random day that I just read the book, and then I ended up going to meet with my friend like you do. I'm just like, oh my God, what's happened? She goes, okay, I'm going to tell you something really random. She's like, Rob had to talk to me, like her husband. She's like, he had to talk to me. And he's like, I think Mark's emasculated. And I'm like, how does he know that word? Like, I just learned it today. What is happening? And I just really took that as like, she's like, I don't even know really what that means, but he said he's got a message for you. And I was like, oh, this is so this is so weird. And that was when I really started to kind of like think, okay, what could I do here? And then we came back together, and it was this process of him making big changes, like major changes. And especially with me working, it was always this, you got to work again, or you're on your phone again. I'm just like, just no. This is no, because you don't walk past an office building of women working and at their desks and you go, oh, look at all those people working. You don't do that. So don't do it to me when I'm working. And this is my job when like I'm on my phone now. Clearly, when I'm on my phone, I'm working. So it was some dynamic shifts. And I meditated for like 6 months straight for 2 hours a day. This was when I started to delete funnels and everything like that, because it was congruency. I was having to heal my adrenals, so I did this big swim. I did a 2K swim, which it sounds weird because it's like that would get you in your masculine, but I needed that really for me. And I was like, this is not going to stop me, but at the same time, I'm not going to railroad this. The dream is not to do this by myself. The dream is to have a dream marriage and do the $1 million. It's not to be single and do it. That's not my dream. I want it as a family dream. This is a family business, this is a family dream. And
I resonate with that.
And it was like, yeah, I just made changes. And it took us about a year of repair and recovery, just doing it ourselves, facilitating ourselves. And yeah, and then the traveling around Australia was the test. Like, I test everybody.
Can you be in a
And
tiny space together for a year?
that was I think it was about 2 or 3 years later from that, like the incident, that we were traveling around Australia, and we did it great. We were closer than ever. You've got each other. It's just you're relying on each other for survival, literally on survival. So it's such a vulnerable place to be. Like, he's driving us around the country, and he had a mission that he hadn't had before, because he doesn't know how to use computers very well. So it's not his, and he's not interested in it as well. It's not his thing. So
I think that
it
for
was
me,
very much like,
that's a huge thing that you just brought up there. Sorry to interrupt you, but like,
no, that's good. Go for it.
I had to really, really accept that in my family, that like my thing was not their thing. Right. And it was a whole thing that I had to like really, really move into acceptance of, because like, I get excited when my clients have amazing results, or I get excited like over, I've had this download for this amazing program and it's gonna be, and I get like this, and my family are like, that's nice. Then I'll Voxer one of my like peeps, like one of my VIP clients, and be like, oh my God, and they'll be like, oh my God, and there's just like these noises only animals can hear, right? And then I'm like, and then I say it to my family again, thinking maybe they didn't understand. And then they're like, like this. And, and I had to really accept that like my thing is not their thing. And that the whole reason that I gather this sort of tribe around me is that I have a tribe of people who get my thing and get excited about my thing, but it's not necessarily my family, but I'm allowed to have it all, right? And so I find now that my family keep me really grounded and things, and it's really good, and it's a beautiful balance. But I think for many women who are growing businesses, and probably even guys as well, that are growing businesses, when we don't get that response that we kind of want, I suppose, in a way, from our partners, from our loved ones, it can feel like they're not supporting us. But the truth is, it's just not their thing. Like my husband likes Formula One racing, right? And he can get quite excited over those little cars whizzing around the racetrack. But I'm kind of like, and it's not going to probably ever be my thing unless he's planning on taking me to Monaco, when I could totally get into that thing, right? And to watch the race from Monaco, because that's the only racetrack that I would love to go to, right? But it's not my jam, right? And it probably won't ever really be my jam. And I think it's that part of the journey is accepting that sometimes your family will seem like they're unsupported, but it's not that they're unsupported. It's just, it's not their jam.
it's like, I feel like this happens with regular couples that are, you know, the guy plays video games and she's not into it and it causes fights. It's the same thing as online. It's our jam. This is my life's work. It's a creative channel, and it that like anything with, you've got, you know, if it's a husband on an Xbox or something and he's totally into games and you don't understand it and you don't get it, it causes friction in a lot of marriages.
Yeah.
That does. And this is flipped. It's, you know, it's flipped. It's the same thing. It's like, why are you spending so much time or whatever it is? Because that used to be kind of back in the day. But yeah, it's, if they're not interested, you don't need to push them to be interested, even though such and such as husband does that. It's just not their thing, and you wanting that to be their thing is going to cause a thing. And also the reactions, I used to feel that as well, because my trust and belief in it was so delicate that a little would just be like I'm out of the game.
I feel like the
A
bubble
little,
would
like,
burst. It
too
was
delicate.
the bubble
Yeah.
would burst, and then you would deflate as a result. Yeah, exactly. And then your vibe would be like, you'd be like low vibe now instead of high vibing with it. And I think this is something that people encounter all the time. And for me, the healing was accepting myself first, and accepting that this was my thing. Really, really accepting it. And that stopped the deflation, because once I chose it, like totally chose it in myself, it stopped me from being deflated, because whatever happened, I chose this. The second thing was, in accepting myself, I had to accept everybody else for what they were. So I had to accept that my when my daughter came on board to do our social media, that she was never going to get, you know, like super excited that I had 101 likes on something. Right. Whereas even though she was the one that had curated maybe that content and put that out there, right? And I'd be like bouncing off the walls like, ah, and she'd be like this. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? You know? And I had to accept that wasn't her, it wasn't her jam. And I also had to accept my husband was probably never gonna get like super duper duper excited. And the weirdest thing happened, because as I moved into that acceptance, I moved into the flow of the energy. And it makes such perfect sense to me now, but I couldn't see it at the time. And I moved into the flow, and now both get excited over the business, right? Whereas when I was like resisting them and getting annoyed at them, like there was no excitement. And now that I just accept them and accept the fact that they might never get excited, and that's okay, because this is my jam and it's okay if it's not theirs. Now they like, now, you know, my husband regularly like rushes through and is like, oh my God, we just did this, or, you know, and I'm like, wow. And it's like, I get what I wanted, but I had to surrender first. And I think,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
it?
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Because
I
look at
love
you
this
now, right?
because
Like you've got this guy that throws your laptop because he's so pissed at you, right? And then you kind of surrender and you accept him and you accept that it's not going to be his thing, right? And like now you guys are talking about doing a podcast together. Like how freaking cool is
and we
that?
do a YouTube channel. We've got a YouTube van life channel that we do these videos. He does a tour of the caravan and he does the talking, and yeah, so
I
it's
love
a
it.
full 360 situation, because as long as he doesn't have to do the, and he can even do stories now, it's just like a whole thing. But it's because I think if you make a really cool point, because the thing is, I was guilty about it. I felt bad about my social media use. I felt bad about it, like, because it was conditioned into me and programmed, like, Facebook is bad, social media is bad, you know what I mean? Meant to be on it. Well, I mean, it's my business, so of course I'm going to be on it. And what I started to realize is that was just all programming and conditioning that I'd created around social media. And I would actually, it was interesting because I used to not be around, I would not be on the phone as much around because I would be conscious of it. Now I don't care at all. And it's not a problem because I'm unapologetically like, I love this. And I think that was the disconnect, because I wasn't sharing with him, like, I love this so much. This is my life work. I love it so much. I love it. And for me, I think that's beautiful for him to watch, is because he loves seeing me love what I do and not being apologetic about it, not trying to hide it, just outwardly, unapologetically, sprawling out on the couch, just laying on the phone, just doing my thing. Like, whereas before I definitely used to kind of try
Yeah,
to
you were aware.
sneak it,
And
not try to do it outward. Yeah, not doing it so
yeah,
outwardly, you know. Now I'm just like outwardly just on it.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Tell us a little bit about your big journey and everything. How important has mindset and intuition been to you?
Everything.
It's everything.
Everything. Okay. Well, where do we start with how important? Okay, it's everything. All right. So there's two big things that I kind of see. There's very much two things that happen. I mean, the intuition was the entire blow it up, burn it down, break free. But back in 2013, when I was walking my son along the river, I was walking him along, and I was feeling like I was posting all the things. I'd just done that B school and I was posting all the things and I was doing things, and I felt like I was just spinning my wheels around, like learning and watching things and not doing much. And I was like, when am I going to break through? Because at that point, I'd already been in business for 10 years and it just was never at the point of overflow. You know, I'm like, when am I going to break through with all of these big dreams that I always seem to chase? Like, when's something going to stick? And I was just walking along the river, and all of a sudden, like straight away, like out of nowhere, it was like, Jana, if you think that success equals hard work, and when I say hard work, I meant like you hate it and you don't want to do it, but you have to do it. That to me is hard work.
Yeah.
So you hate it, you have to, and you don't want to. That's the way that I see hard work.
Mm.
So doing great work is totally different. But anyway, like in my head at that point of evolution, it was like, if success equals hard work, you're just not going to let yourself do it. You've got this little baby. You're just not going to allow yourself to, ride yourself into a place that's going to create hard work. And success equals burnout, and success equals like, what else
Sacrifice.
did I say? Yeah, like that was I'm like, all of these things that you're believing about success, you're never, with your value set, you're never going to let yourself and allow yourself to achieve these if that's your belief. So let's look at success equals, and I saw this equal sign, success equals ease, success equals more help, success equals more health, and success equals more ease. And I just saw these equations and I was like, oh my gosh. And I started to walk along it was just this moment, and I started walking along the river again, and I just was like, success equals more help. I was like, that makes so much sense. I can hire more help. Like, whoa, my gosh. Success equals more health. Success equals more ease. And so I just walked along the river, and then the next day I had like ideas for things. I launched a course a couple of months later, and then that started the spinning. And then I did 1K months to 11K months in 5 months. In that next year after that, like I'd only launched one course between that and that. And it was that belief work that I was doing that I didn't know what it was, but it was this equation thing that I'd figured out that and I just slipstreamed into this action, this aligned action. Cause I was taking a lot of action before, but it wasn't aligned. It was like a lot of action with the belief that success equals hard. So keep it always at an arm's distance, because you don't want that work. You don't want success equals hard work, as in like, because it's going to take great work, to succeed, but that hard work that you hate and you don't want to do, but you still have
I
to.
think this will make a
That's what I
really
didn't want.
great lab note for the $1 million experiment, to ask what does success equal, like to get people to dig into it, because I had a very similar thing. My story happened a little bit differently. I had success equals hard work, which I was prepared to do in the early days, right up until I collapsed of stress-induced multiple organ failure and told to write my letters to my young kids. And then when I built this business, I was absolutely no compromise, like none.
Mm-hmm.
I will rather not have success if the only way that you can get it is through hard work. And I had to go on this journey of rediscovering that actually you can have success in source alignment. But the cool thing is that if you have success at source alignment, you actually have the time and the energy to freaking enjoy it when you're there. But when you do it from void alignment, you're so stressed out, you're so overworked, your adrenals are probably like giving you so much jip that even in your downtime, you're not enjoying it because you're literally on the edge of a burnout, which is, you know, where I was before, but I even went into the burnout. And so learning how to build a business from source alignment, I think, is really important. And that's something that I talk a lot about with people, is learning to build your business from the correct energy, because then you get to enjoy it. And like, even though you're in a house right now and you're having your like workation and things, but the fact is that, you know, when you're not in a house, there's so much freedom in your life. You know, even in the house there's freedom, but like you just get, you know, the house gives you the ability to get your teeth into a bigger project and things, and your life really has so much freedom. And so you have the success, but you also get to live it on your terms, which I think is so important in business.
100%. So like with that, I ended up just developing that system of creating what's now called belief ethics. So that second part of it, what happened was last year, I did the same thing, but I did it around money, and I did it every day. And so it was like this every single day of getting, every one of my quantum leaps have always been when I've just got next level like focus on clearing my beliefs every single day, like every day, around whatever it is, where is the point of most resistance, and just moving through that. So that's really like that, how it evolved like over those years. Is that's why mindset has been like so important. Like that's exactly how I had my quantum leap last year, because everyone's like, well, how are you doing 100k months compared to, you know, the 129k months? And I even had like a 42k day within 24 hours, and like a 67k week, and all these like crazy things. And like, what did you do different in your business? I'm like, nothing. My business model is exactly the same as before. It was mindset, like it was the mindset work, it was my belief ethics. So that's my process that I do for subconscious reprogramming, and I do it every day. And I have like memberships where they do it every single day with us together, like facilitated, because it's the main thing, because that's the thread that everything else stacks on, that goes, has you take the action that is aligned first, and it's alchemy instead of just action, because you may as well just be doing nothing. So that,
Love that.
I noticed that mindset work is extremely important for women that have got really high value sets, like not prepared to do anything against your values. That's who it works for the most. I think that's who mindset work really works for the most, is because you got to really figure it out, because otherwise you're on a leash of your own creation, because you're not letting yourself fully go for it. It's the same like with your life's work. It's that moment where you're like, I love this, and it's okay for me to be a woman, a mother, and love what I do, and unapologetically explain that I love what I do, and I'm obsessed with it, and it's okay. And one of the times that I had to do mindset work hugely, because I could feel I had a tether on myself, like I was on a leash, and it was a precipice. You know, it's fine being a six-figure, because for me, my childhood dream wasn't to be a six-figure entrepreneur, it was to be a millionaire. So I feel like that's why I hit it so quick, because it was never the childhood dream, like to be a six-figure business owner. That wasn't, what even is that?
Oh my
That's
God.
where I got it so quick.
I mean, that's why I was able to build, you've just made me realize that's why I was able to build 4 six-figure businesses between the age of 23 and 26, was because it was never the dream. The dream was always to build
Yeah,
a
you're
million
aiming
pound
beyond
business.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why the $1 million was so big for me. And I think when I was keeping myself, like the six figures was like, I blinked and I got it. And it wasn't intentional or anything. I was just like, I'm going for the million. Like, phew, that's so far from that. That's like only a 1/10 of it, whatever it is. And I was going for the million. And one thing that I really felt like I was keeping myself back in, the mindset thing that shifted me, was I had this belief again, kind of like halfway through this a couple of years ago, that success equals losing myself. And this was just before we started to travel. And that was a core belief, and I could never shake it. And I was like, this just is the thing that's like got me in a vice grip. I can't move. Success equals lose yourself. And I remember having this epiphany. This was a huge breakthrough for me, where it's like, what if losing myself is the best thing that ever happened to me?
I
And
was just going to say that, isn't it? The irony is that you
yeah,
actually
the
did lose yourself. And
I did lose myself, and I became me because I wasn't actually even me. I was an altered version of me. At the time, in the moment, I'm like, I'm being myself, but I was altered by money. Like, okay, so I'm such an advocate for being yourself. Like, be yourself, be raw, real, be yourself. Like, oh, that's my whole thing. Become a woman of wealth by being yourself. That's what I'm so passionate about.
I love
And
that. And it rhymes.
I know, be a
Even
woman of
better.
wealth by being yourself. I'm so passionate. You would have seen that watching me all over the years. It's confronting sometimes how be myself I am. But I remember like really seeing this thing, especially of like losing yourself, is letting myself get lost. I just allowed myself to lose myself, and then becoming a woman of wealth by being myself. And I remember after my first 100K month, I was like, I had no idea who I was. Like, I have never been more me. And having money equals I get to be more me. Who would have known? And I realized I'd been living an altered version of myself according to what I could have. So
Mm.
I didn't realize how free spirited I was with money, how generous I was with money. Like, I sent my coach flowers, I sent Melanie flowers when I hit 100K the second time. I was like, I sent her the biggest flowers like that you would ever see, and I sent her flowers, and I realized I had always my whole life thought I wasn't a good gift buyer, like I wasn't very generous. It's just because I didn't have $5,000 to buy things. Like, I bought my husband for his birthday last year, like a $6,000 yacht trip, and then for his Father's Day, I bought him I spent like 5,000 on a helicopter pub crawl across outback Australia. And I'm just like, I'm
As
such
you
a
do.
good, as you do, you know. But I was like, I'm so good at getting gifts. And then I bought him a $76,000 car that we bought in cash. But I never realized I'm so good at buying gifts. I'm really good. You just got to give me a $76,000 budget, and I know exactly what to give you. I just never do that. I used to come to parties and be like, oh my God, I forgot your gift. I left it at home. I didn't even buy one. So that was me before. But like,
You heard it here
that's the
first.
point.
Jana didn't buy
Yeah.
one.
No, I didn't. It's like, I didn't buy it. It's at home in
I
the
think
invisible link.
I think we've all done that. So yeah,
So it's such an oldie.
it's at home.
It's at home. I
We're a little
totally
bit
bought it.
last
I'm just gonna
minute, a
buy
little
one.
bit screwball scramble, a little bit like you know.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. So that's the mindset part of it, was realizing that the more money I have and the more money that women have, the more themselves they get to become, because you realize how altered you were. So if I'm that passionate about being yourself, we have to get more women having more money, because you get to be more yourself. Those
Yeah, which
slash
I think
go
is such a
together.
powerful thing for the planet, is that the
Mm-hmm.
more, we are ourselves, and the more that we are allowed to be ourselves, and the more that we allow ourselves to be ourselves, really, because we often, nobody's holding the gun to your head. It is you that is ultimately making those decisions of holding yourself outside yourself, holding yourself in the distortion of who you think you should be, as opposed to who you really are, which is such it's such a mind fuck, basically. But it is, but at the same time, it's not intentional, because it makes us sound like women are so like two-faced, but it's not even intentional. You don't even realize until the arena opens up for you. And that's one of the reasons why I love money so much. I love money so much because I have always said that money is an expander. So if your true nature is that you are a giant asshole, you can be really, really, you can go to town when you have money. But if actually your true nature is that you're generous and loving and kind, money will just expand that nature inside you, and it will become. And so therefore, all money is really a trust issue, because the reason we fear it so much, we want it, and yet we fear having it, is because we don't trust ourselves enough that who are we going to be with it? Are we going to be who we think that we are, that kind, generous person? Or do we overnight turn into the a-hole, and we don't trust ourselves enough? And I find for me, my journey with money is learning to trust myself, learning who I am. So I am certain about who I am, and it does not matter whether I have money or not money, because that's who I am. It doesn't change. It just increases when I have money. And so when I, really understood that the core of me is actually, one of my core values is generosity, integrity, and honesty. Like when those things were upheld inside me, it became easy to trust myself with money. And guess what? Money started showing up in bigger and bigger amounts.
I love that you have those three things. I feel like those are mine for me: free spirited, bright minded, and lighthearted. Those are like, they're like North Stars.
I love that. It's such a quotable. Free spirited,
Spirited, bright
light-minded,
minded, lighthearted.
beautiful.
Yeah, bright minded is probably my favorite. Free spirited too. Yeah, lighthearted too. The three together.
The three together.
They're like a
But the
North
three
Star.
together is like a powerful lens by which you can view your life, right? Like, because I have this thing that I call my computer. I tell everybody about it. It's called ease, joy, and flow. So anything that I do in my life, I live by this lens. So I say, will it bring me ease? Will it bring me joy? Will it bring me flow? Right? And if I get 3 yeses, I get what I call green lighted. So the project's being green lighted and I can go ahead and do it. But if I just get 1 no, even just 1, or like one's like, then I have to go back and I have to look at the energy of it, because there's going to be something funky. And it's not in alignment with where I want to go, because where I want to go has ease, joy, and flow in it. And so, whereas you could do the same with, will it activate these 3 energies in me? Will it activate my lightness of heart? Will it activate my freedom of spirit? Will it activate my bright mind? And if you get 3 yeses, you've been green lighted for the project, go, go, go. And if you get a no, then it's time to go back to the drawing board and have a look and see, maybe the energy requires to be tweaked. Maybe you're making it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, it's such a good North Star. Like if I'm not feeling bright minded, okay, what are we doing to bring that back? If I'm not feeling free spirited, what's going on? Where can I make a tweak? Same as lighthearted. So I'm in deep heaviness or really feeling like I'm walking around with my shadow most of the time. I'm like, okay, it feels like it's a North Star of things that need to be addressed, because they're not, that those are my nature. That's my true, that's what I found when we traveled, is that's my true nature. And that's when I'm really at my highest self state. So it gives me a real good, basically like a gauge. Like I can be like, oh, I need to tweak that a little bit, I need to tweak that a little bit, and gives you this good way to figure out how to be on your frequency. Like it's your own, for me, I call it like the manifesting signature. Like that's my vibe. If I'm in all 3 of those, I'm on my vibe. And everybody has their different like signature, because they're all different. Some people have to manifest from like need, but there's people like us that we lack the free spirited. For me, it's like free spirited, bright minded, lighthearted. If I'm feeling heavy about it, then I'm not going to manifest it, because I'm not on my frequency. So
I love that. I love that. It's like tuning in, isn't it? It's like finding the dial, the right dial. It's like finding your favorite radio station, really.
Yeah. It's like,
because my favorite radio station is Ease, Joy, and Flow. It's what I want for my life. I just want to feel on a daily basis ease, joy, and flow. Like, and when I feel
that's for you.
That's how I like, that's when I'm radiating. If it's easy, if it's joyful, if it's full of flow, it's like, for me, it's like, who doesn't want more of this? And it's like that. Yeah, it's like, but I love,
makes life so simple.
It makes life so simple. Exactly. And I think this is the thing, is that I teach this thing about source energy and void energy, and the nature of the void is to be complex. And so if you're living life and life feels really complex, know that you have the presence of void energy. Well, unfortunately, nothing grows in the void, because the nature of the void is not to grow things, it's actually to diminish things, to make it smaller. The nature of source is to expand and to grow. And so when you have that little, like, it just, for me, life's just very black and white. It's just very like, it's either source or void. It's either light or shadow. And I just run everything through that. And it just makes life so much, for me, like, so easy and simple, because it's like, it's either in source alignment or it's not. And if it's not, then you have to make sure that when you're in the void, it's a personal choice and not a story that you're telling yourself, well, this is my life, this is what I have to go through. Because then
you're not out of effect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause then
you've
you're
got
in
it's
control.
powerfulness, not powerlessness, because you got the power over it. It's kind of like the way that I talk to people, like when they say about social media, like they need a break from social media. That's all well and good. Like some of my clients took an intentional break over Christmas because that's what we do. We're like, okay, I can feel like after this workcation, I'll need this. So I take a day off on Wednesdays. I have my weekends, I'm light on. Even when I'm on a workcation, we go out to dinner, we go out with friends, we have heaps of fun time. So my idea of a workcation is a little different to most people's, but for me, it's around just making sure that I've got that balance and allowing myself to, have that freedom to have all that balance and being able to sort of like give it a bit of juice. And the North Stars of like the free spirited, bright minded, lighthearted, it just keeps it super simple. And so with social media, when I have like that balance, and having that balance is when people like say to me, for example, on social media, they'll be like, I'm feeling so much pressure on social media. Social media is so much pressure, or social media is so much comparison, or social media is so much, you got to show up. And I'm like, those three things that you just said have got nothing to do with social media. They've got everything to do with you. The pressure, social media didn't give me pressure. You gave yourself pressure. Like social media didn't give you comparison. You've got the comparison. It just highlights and go, hello, you got comparison going on. It's not like nobody had comparison before social media. We all did it. Just went, hi, here's magnifying glass to your own inner stuff. Go work on it. Get your journal out. So I think it's putting other things with more power, like social media has power over us, but it just doesn't.
It doesn't. It only has power
Showing
that
us
we're willing
our
to give
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
It only has
Yeah.
power. Yes. I love this because we do the same thing with money, right? Like this is why I love money, because I'm so fascinated by it, because we really, I
Love that
mean,
you love it. It's so
I
good.
really honestly don't think that there is a better spiritual teacher on this planet right now than money. Money is like the most epic spiritual teacher, because like we attach so much stuff to it. Let's really look at what money is: rounds of metal and bits of paper, and you've made it mean so much, right? And it's like, it's rounds of metal and bits of paper. None of us actually even want money. What we want is what we can buy with it, what we can do with it. What we want is an intangible feeling. I get people who say, yeah, well, I want money. And I say, okay, well, why do you want money? I'm like, surely you don't want rounds of metal and bits of paper, right? So what is it that you want? And it stops everybody in their tracks, and they go, I want security. Well, security is not money. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that money can sometimes give you, but you can get all the money in the world and still, like, the money would actually amplify your lack of security, right? So now you're like a millionaire and you're like, oh my God, they're going to steal my kids. They're going to legit, like, there's going to be a ransom. And your lack of security is just going to be amplified because money is an expander, right? It wasn't, and then now you're disappointed in money because money didn't give you the security. And I'm like, no, but the security should come from you.
I love this so much. This is what happens. It's like if I'm walking women through, we're doing it daily on the work. We're doing a daily money quest at the moment for 2021. And every single day they're getting these beliefs about money. And whatever level you're at, just times it by 10. So when you do have the money, just times it by 10. So whatever you're wanting, you're getting advanced screening of fear that you're going to have with the money. So you're getting like an advanced screening of the preview of the movie. And if you can't sort it there, you can't sort it where you're at, you're not going to be sorted when it's times 10. The tools that you use in the failure with money are the tools you need in success with money, because it's the same. I'm like, whoa, I've been here before. Like, whoa, this is like exactly the same. And I need the gratitude, and I need this tool, and I need the engaged enthusiasm. I need it all. The same tools that I used when I was failing with money, I need for success with the money.
Okay, so let me recap this for everybody who's listening, for the people in the back, because this needs to be said again. Right, so wherever you are right now with money, times it by 10, like how you're feeling, the fears, right, will be times by 10 when you have money. So if you can't deal with it now, like deal with the fear while it's probably at a manageable level, even though you're freaking out right now. Can you imagine what you're going to be like at 10 times that level? And it's not the money's fault. It is our beliefs. I love this, Jana. I think you've just dropped like liquid gold here because it is so true, right? Because it's like, this is it. Money is an expander. And, you know, if you don't trust yourself now, what's it going to be like with times 10, right? Now you're freaking out because you got money. Not now you're freaking out because you not got money, but then times it by 10 and now you got money. Now you're like really freaking out.
It's like whatever
Self-trust.
is. Yeah, times it by 10, because if you can't handle it now, it'll be times 10. And the universe is just protecting you from having it, because if you can't go through that training ground, they're not sending you off to camp.
Yeah.
They're just like, well, let's just keep her there until she figures it out. And if she figures it out, then we'll send her off to camp. But she's still going to need everything she learned at training camp to go out there in the wild, wild west. She's going to need everything, because the gratitude that I learned with zero, when I had zero, I had to, the hardest thing when we moved into this house, like this was the most ridiculously crazy, amazing house ever. Tony Robbins stays in here when he comes over to Australia. It's pretty much was the most expensive house to rent in Australia, in the whole country. Anyway, so it's amazing. And I walked in here and we went crazy. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, it just feels normal. Why is it feeling normal? Oh my God. Gratitude, Jana, gratitude. Oh my God, why can't you be gratitude? Why can't you be grateful? What is wrong with you? Oh my God, you are totally broken. What is happening? Gratitude. Why do I feel so apathetic? It's like, nah, it's cool. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, past self Jana would have literally slapped you in the face right now. Like, get it together, woman. Where's the gratitude? And I just couldn't. And I was getting really mad at myself. It took me 8 days of inner work using my old tools when I had no money. Was gratitude. It was being present. It was allowing the flows and the ebbs. It was crying in the shower, laying down on the ground, exactly how I did when I had no money. Exactly the same. And I've lived in a car before. Like, I've had no money before.
Amazing.
I've been so hungry, I've vomited water, like, because I was so hungry. So there's been those times before. So past me would have slapped me in the face hearing me talk of this. And that was the most painful. But everything that I needed, gratitude, presence, flow and ebbs, pain and pleasure, being able to, really walk myself through both of those. Every tool that I use, journaling, belief ethics, my personal process for reprogramming my beliefs, I used all of that in success to walk myself through the 8 days of almost like hell, because I was being so apathetic when we first moved in here. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I cried. It was euphoric. It was gratitude. It was like, oh, finally. But luckily I had those tools, because I would have just been a mess. Like, it was intense. So yeah, there's that.
I love that.
Used all the same tools.
Let's wrap up here, because I think this is just a beautiful place to wrap up, and tell people how they can find you on the interwebs. How can they connect with you?
Oh, I love that. Come be friends on Facebook. Well, I mean, I think I'm nearly at my limit, but come follow me on Facebook as a friend, because that's my catch-all. That you get everything. I'm on YouTube. It's Big Dreams TV. It will link to our YouTube, which has our van life. It's a total buffet. You never know what you're going to get. It's not niche, that's for sure. It's van life videos. It's motivational Big Dreams videos. It's Facebook Live recordings. It's caravan tours. It's everything that makes up everything that I'm interested in. And then you can go to my Facebook page, where I put all of my trainings, and my Instagram is lit. It's so good. So go to my Instagram. I do great reels. I'm getting good at reels. I'm really enjoying them. I love making videos, even though I'm not I'm not a videographer, but I like to think I am. So that's the vibe. Come play on the social medias.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this, Jana. We have literally talked up a storm this morning, and I know that people are going to get so much value from this. So I just want to say, if you've been listening, do drop us a review if you have loved this episode, and do make sure you share it out with your friends as well. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify and iTunes or Google or one of the other channels.
Yes, tag me on your stories. I love that.
Awesome.
And I'll reshare it.
Brilliant.
So good.
So thank you so much, Jana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing. I'm so happy. Thanks for having me on.